Oh, indeed. I guess it is. I'm just gonna do this. But my hair looks so. Anyway, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do this. And we're sitting here on Friday afternoon, September 29th, year 2023, here with the Hello Hello Show. And my name is Haim Mizrahi, continuing with the tradition of public access and the tradition of the Hello Hello Show that's been on the air since, I would say, 1980. Of course, not to fail to mention a contribution by Fraser Dougherty and Francis Ann, and God bless. Fraser Dougherty passed away about a month ago. Greatly missed. But we are continuing to make as much sense as we can allow ourselves to vis-a-vis this wonderful stage called LTV/public access, and we're doing it with class in an elegant fashion, and we are standing sturdy. We are erecting shows and art exhibitions. As a matter of fact, I'm just getting ready to hang another new show. Tomorrow, on the 30th of September, we have a closing reception of Dan Weldon's um, solo exhibition here at LTV Studios. I guess it's going to be from 4 to 7. Um, Highly recommended to attend. Beautiful work, and obviously guaranteed you'll have a good time. Now, I wanted to call, actually, just as I'm supposedly starting with my show. I wanted to call Steve Ram just to get him, you know, getting him to chat with him. Yes. What's this? Yes. Okay, so let's see if we can get him home. Okay, so this is calling Steve Ram. Hello?
Hello.
Okay, you better watch your language because you're on the air.
How are you? I will be very polite, very courteous, because I have great respect for the people of East Hampton.
Okay.
Not their leaders, just the people.
Just the people, yeah. Okay. Well said, well said.
So, how are you? Are we on air?
Yeah, we are on the air. So,
I would like to say hello to everybody and hope that they're getting through these miserable days that we've had and are having. And again, Channel 12 with their weather forecast, and I do like Channel 12 very much. Really need somebody out in the Hamptons or the East End to give them a weather forecast, because when they say there's no rain out here and no flooding out here, they need somebody to report back that it was just pouring, and yes, there are floods, and the roads are flooded, and all you have to do is make the turn where the service station is, where Safeway is, and drive through a small lake where we could go sailing. So I
yes,
think that
someone did not plan right about certain section. They solved a few intersections where there was a problem, and every time they're trying to fix things like that, you realize how long it really takes. Not because they're
right,
lazy, it's because there's
right,
so much work that comes into trying to fix things that you did wrong to begin with.
right. I agree. I mean, I know several spots as well as you do. All I can say is that if there's ever a flood out here and we have to take the emergency evacuation route, the one lane that leaves Hamptons with all the people that are out here, especially if it's the summer and there's a hurricane, when you go through Watermill, that little stretch that goes over the pond out to the ocean, is probably 3 feet over the water at any given time. That certainly will be underwater. Just as Montauk was cut off in the 38 hurricane, Watermill and the East End will be cut off. And Sag Harbor's been underwater. I mean, you know, and
Well, I
yeah,
mean,
as Lenore said, the people with planes and boats will be able to get away. So, you know, the
yeah,
rest of us that have cars, although they're coming out with flying cars, and for a mere $300,000 a car, we could fly out of here.
yeah. Well, but you can also sharpen your skills in digging a ditch, so you can kind of dig in and cover yourself with earth and wait. Yeah, No, no, but what I mean is like there's a certain basic skills that if you were to acquire, you stand a good chance to survive.
I think you need to learn to become an Olympic swimmer, and that will help you survive.
Well, you don't want to even get into the water to begin with.
That's true. I think if you stay in your pool, you're safe. Water is water. What's the worst that happens? It gets higher and higher. That's all.
Oh my God.
So
Okay. So, but you closed your pool. What are you gonna do?
we close the pool. Well, we'll take a razor. We'll open the top up.
No,
That's all.
I
And
want,
then we'll hide underneath the cover.
I want you to tell everyone what happened this year. As soon as you closed your pool, what happened?
It got hot. There's just a certain law that works. That no matter what month or what week you close your pool, you know that as soon as you close your pool, you're going to have a heat spell.
Yeah,
If
but
you
tell
wait
the
to
audience,
close your pool,
tell the
then it's going to be really cold.
tell the audience how many times you had the chance to swim since you opened it when late May, early June.
It works out to somewhere around $800 for every time you go in the pool.
Yes. Well, I
If you
mean,
figure,
you go what 3 times a year?
if we're lucky. So you open the pool, you pay to have the cover put away and the chemicals put in, which used to be $75 for the pellets. Now they're 200 and some odd dollars for the pellets. And you're lucky if you have a really good pool person, which we have. And the beginning of the summer, July, the first 2 weeks were like Alaska. And then it got really hot, and we thought, wow, this is great. We're going to go swimming. And then the beginning of August was really cold, and then we got 2 more weeks of heat. So out of the entire summer, there were 4 weeks out of the entire summer that you could swim. And then by the end of August, it was really cold again. So we closed the pool up, and then, of course, it got hot. So there's no way. And if you listen to the weather forecast, it's the exact opposite of what really happens. So, it's like when the hurricane was coming up the coast, whichever one it was, it's irrelevant. Where it's going to hit, what it's going to do, it seems to miss the Hamptons for
Yeah,
some
but
reason. I
listen,
guess there's so much money out here that they can buy off the weather.
I don't. Well, yes. Well, that's well put. But you and I, we've been around here for 30, 40 years, so we know the drill, and we survived. Whatever it is. Not that
Right.
there were some hurricanes, mid '80s and all that, and I remember that was very challenging. Winters in the '80s was the snow was. I mean, really, it was real. So, but the thing is, but I know that you can think also positively. For example, the show that I'm putting together that you happen to be a part of, where about 20 artists are getting together and I provide them with canvases and they just paint really on their own behalf. I think that that's like something that once we find out how great it's going to be, we would
I'm looking forward
we
to
would
it.
want
And
to do it more often.
I agree. I think it's a really good idea. I think all the shows that you've put on, I give you credit for putting it together. I give the artists credit for getting their work there and showing. I hope more and more of the public starts to show up. I've been to other openings at other places, and to be honest, you've had more people show up at LTV than at other locations. And I think the work that's at LTV is really, really good. Um, I hope it grows into something that people start to put on their list of things that they have to do when there's a show.
Yeah.
And that they come and see the artwork because there are really good artists there, and it's a really nice venue, and you do a great job curating it. I know somebody occasionally helps you place the art where it should be, but other than that,
Yeah.
you do a great job hanging it, picking it, and everything else. So it is appreciated. By one of your artists, which is me, I really appreciate what you do, and I feel that.
But the thing is, I want people to know. I want people out there to know that when we're on the phone with Steve Rom, an artist, I can say a businessman, a friend, a teacher, an educator, a philosopher, you know,
And a grumpy old man.
a sociologist. Forget about psychologist, sociologist, a good one, and also a person that probably knows something about everything, which is like that kind of putting it
I
mildly.
wouldn't go as far as
But
everything, but
yeah,
a few things.
because you can make things up that will sound just right, even about things you know nothing about. But the thing is, the years that we went through, I think, is a great example to accept advice. I wouldn't even say humble yourself and therefore allow things to help you when you listen to others. You don't need to humble yourself. You need to just accept it to begin with as something that is a surety that's going to happen to you in your life. You know
I
what I
think
mean?
part of the relationship that we have is that both of us are always learning all the time. And that's critical. If you have your mind open to accept new things and to be able to look at other things and learn from it, that's really important. That's how you get better at what you're doing. And, Lenore, who's a fantastic photographer, I've seen her work change. I've seen her work grow right in front of me. I've seen your work drastically change over the years and get better and better and better and more creative. Those are the things that make an artist an artist. It's when you're stagnant and you just keep doing the same thing over and over again that you stop growing and stop learning.
But also look at the difference between the times that you were kind of growing up, let's say 20s, 30s, 40s, in your 20s, 30s, 40s, even though you started much earlier, but just the kind of a how much one needed to do before one can even start painting. Apropos brushes, availability of affordable materials, you know, paint, canvases. I mean, when I started painting in the late 90s, to buy it was expensive for me. To buy a 24 by 48 was something like $110
Right.
in 1995. That was a lot of money then. That was like
Right.
my weekly income. So, but now it's so easy. I mean, it's so easy that you can really have no excuse why things are not happening.
It depends upon
No,
the.
and I'm not
I
talking
mean,
to you specifically. I'm just saying that
no,
it's.
I totally understand. I mean, canvases. I used to have canvases made. I don't do that anymore because they've just priced themselves out of the possibility of using them. And frankly, I don't need it. I do my own, and I have enough here that will take me through another 5 years at least of canvases that I can use.
But
So,
the point I was trying to make, and actually my point is also the question itself that I have for you, is that you know in your 20s or 30s or 40s, when you know, let's just say what would that be, like late 60s or early 70s? Uh,
no, in the 60s, I was in my late teens, early 20s.
no, in the 70s. Let's say late 70s.
70s,
the
20s, early 30s,
the days
near
that
the
you
near the
were
end of the 70s.
the days that you were standing committed in front of your canvases, the style of painting that required from you durability, stability, commitment. It was, I know. So I'm so impressed long before I even examine your art, just your work ethics, you know, and the consistency of that, because you know you need to finish a painting that you start. It's
Right,
just not a
right.
game. So nowadays you can really, I think that what led to that today is so easy is because
I, I,
we
I
did a
agree
great
with you.
job in the 70s for that to happen today.
I don't think I
I
could
mean,
do
I don't know,
today.
when in the 70s I was very very young, but anyway, I can only
Yeah, but
assume.
I think that what I was doing in the 70s eventually led to what I'm doing today, and I couldn't do what I'm doing today if I hadn't done what I did in the 70s and early 80s.
Now
Because
you
one
sound
thing
like
leads
me.
into another.
You were talking just like me now.
Oh my God, I've become Haim. Now I'm going to start reading poetry that nobody understands.
How about writing poetry that nobody understands?
Exactly. I mean, I have my own poetry, and occasionally I'll read it on air, and it's like only I understand it. You probably understand it, but everybody else is going, "What the hell are they talking about?"
So, but listen, joking aside, I mean the canvas that you have above the fireplace, the last two landscapes that you did and clouds that you did, which is like the epitome of the epitome of the epitome of a great, wonderful, fantastic place to be. And that's what it is. So
I'm looking at the big one right now. The big, it's not primitive because it's got depth and all kinds of things too.
it's
But I'm
called
looking at it and I'm
conviction.
thinking, you know what? I don't ever want to paint that again.
Yeah, of course, of course. But the thing is that the beauty is that now you can do whatever you want. The fact that you don't do or
Right.
do, that's besides the fact. So, but I'm still hoping that I can contribute something to you. That one day I can really shake you hard enough, so you can suddenly realize that you can be, let's say, a modernistic minimalism. Yeah, that's where I see you venture from what you've been doing for 40, 50 years into that.
I totally agree with you. I mean, it's headed in that direction, and it doesn't diminish any of the creativity that goes into it. In fact, it makes it harder. The simpler it is, the harder it is, because what you put on the canvas has to be that much better to work. You can't get away with mistakes or things that people don't see if it's a very complicated painting.
Yeah,
You can
but
have
what if
errors in it.
mistakes wouldn't be there in the sense that we kind of understand it? It will be there, but it will be actually something else.
It becomes something else, and um, I used the example when the last time we had a show together. I was talking about Ed Reinhardt, who is one of my favorite artists because I actually heard him lecture at Boston University, and he had followed the path of. I have a great deal of respect if somebody can start out as a real traditional artist and then go into something that is totally abstract. And his paintings had gotten to the point where he was doing black paintings, which were maybe 6 squares, slightly different shades of black. And looking at it, you may not think it's great art, but he was doing something for himself to reach a point of the infinite painting for him of where he got to after he went through all the transitions of doing traditional art, knowing how to paint, knowing how to draw, knowing all the things that went into it. He minimized it to the nth degree. And you have to have respect. You may not like the paintings, but you have to have respect for the concept that goes in behind it. And that's how I felt.
You know what? And what you say actually, when you say that, I remember the surprise. I was very surprised when you read your poetry here. A few poems. Remember, some mornings we used to kind of start with a poem. And you remember which poem that you brought? Um, it was so intriguing, and then I realized that actually um, how much of that is really finding itself in the final compositions of you as a painter. And I had the chance when you left the pieces here to become more intimate with your large scale,
Right.
because I take my large scale as for granted. But when I look at your large scale, it's like suddenly I'm aware of the size of the dimension. It's different than when I look at mine. So it was very nice. I got to discover a few things about you that I never knew, and you can see it with the paintings and all that. But you know what? It would be interesting to have you teach now for a couple of years. Can you envision yourself teaching a let's say alternative approach to what it means to be cool? You know what I mean? Whatever the subject matter.
It was interesting. Years and years ago, when I was getting my master's degree at Post, I was taking a drawing course, and I went into the first class, and they had a life model, and I did a drawing, and the teacher came over and said, "You clearly know what to do. You obviously know how to draw. Would you mind taking over the class while I go out and have a smoke?"
Oh,
And
really?
he never came back.
Why am I
and
not surprised?
and it was easy because I had my degree in fine arts and I had my degree in teaching, and so teaching the class, whether they're seventh grade or they're college kids, didn't make any difference.
But did he
And
ever come back at all?
no, he came back the following week and he said, "Look, you did such a great job. I'm just not going to come. Just run the class for me. Just don't say anything."
I love
So
it.
I said, "Fine, I don't care." And I got myself an A for running the class was not hard, and I had been teaching for a long time, and it was easy. I had gotten my BFA, I was getting my master's, and so it was kind of nice to to run the class.
Yeah,
So it
yeah.
put me back into teaching with people that were really interested in learning, and they were there because they wanted to take the course. They were there because they wanted to really learn. And the hardest thing to do are line drawings where you can use only the pencil. Once you put it down on the paper, you can't pick it up. You have to capture the figure in one line. And teaching people how to do that it's easy to teach. It's very hard to do.
Yeah.
And
Well, thank you for being so honest.
it was fun. I mean,
Yes.
I enjoyed it, and I have some drawings that I found recently from back in I guess the 60s and 70s, and I look at them now and I go, I guess I do know how to draw, and I think that's all part and parcel of being an artist. That you can do certain things and grow on that. So
Yeah.
it's fun. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
it's
definitely. And I, I, uh, I just, I guess after all these years that we're together, things still seem very normal.
I
Very.
can't think of anything else in life that I would have wanted to do other than what I've done.
Yeah, and still
You
doing.
know, and still do. I
Yeah.
mean, to this day, being a scientist would have been great. Being all kinds of different jobs um, would have been creative in their own sense, but being an artist was just what I was meant to be. And
Yes. How did
I've
you
been fortunate enough
survive?
that I've been able to do it.
You're like um, the opposite from that kind of prototype that I would imagine going to art school or mingling with the crowd out there. Not that I mean with the quality crowd, but still, nevertheless, a crowd. You probably were so much yourself, but you managed to play it as if you're not, as if you're part of the herd. That's why you survived in the school, I'm sure. You know what I mean? But you did eventually what it is that you wanted to do, what it is that you felt you should do, and but you made the other side believe that you're actually listening to them because you wanted to be a part of this environment.
I think that I learned from everybody along the way. I mean, the reason it's really interesting. I think certain things happen by accident that are meant to be. Um, the reason that I got into the paintings that I did, the landscapes with the glazing, is that we were up in Great Barrington and Lenore saw these metallic powders. And she said, "Look, these are really interesting. Why don't you buy some? I don't know what you're going to do with them, but they look really cool." So I think I bought 6 different colors. And when we got back to Long Island out here, I started using them in the paintings. And eventually I ended up with like 60 or 70 bottles of them and a special medium that I use. And the paintings, if you look at the earlier ones, they had some areas with metallic glazing in them, and then it grew and grew and grew until the painting that you were referring to in the living room, which weighs a ton because it's got like 2 gallons of glaze on it and
Yeah.
hundreds of coats of glaze and
So those
metallic powder.
powders, you introduce paint to the powders, and then it creates texture
And,
as it
and there's no paint.
creates the color, the pigment. It creates also texture. Correct?
Right. It creates a texture. When you start building up once you get past 50 layers of acrylic medium, you start getting a texture to it that is just, you can't get it with paint. but
Yeah.
you can get it only with the medium building up, which you're doing with the brush.
It's almost
But
like a
it's
thin
different.
plexiglass already. Like,
Yeah. I remember when I was at Skowhegan, I learned how to do frescoes, working with wet plaster. And that was really fascinating to do. It's an art form that very few people know how to do or ever get a chance to do.
tell me a little more about Skowhegan.
Skowhegan is a school up in Maine. It's on a lake, and you live in dorms. You have breakfast there in the morning. You get up very early in the morning. There's breakfast in the large, I guess, restaurant room, and then you're given a basket of food for lunch, and everybody walks up this path up into the hill, and there are guest teachers there who you have a studio space. There's space for sculpting. There's a huge kiln that was homemade, and then there's a huge barn where every year, whatever class is there in the summer, does a fresco over the existing fresco that's there, which is really kind of cool. It's what I always wanted to see for the parish museum down in Southampton. That wall that faces the highway that makes it look like it's a Ford factory, it should be divided into 20-foot sections. There should be artists, local artists that are given a section. It's kept up for 2 years, and then it's painted over white, and new artists come in and do it.
Yeah.
And to have
Yeah.
that whole wall done with artwork, from abstract to realistic to all different kinds of things, it would scream out to people driving by, hey, I'm a museum. I'm not a factory.
Yes.
And it's never been approached. It's never been done. There's so much available for creativity there.
But listen, you asking for that to happen, it's like asking to, this is an impossible task. But nobody says that we cannot erect this particular wall that you're talking about ourselves. It doesn't mean that,
really
that we're not,
concept.
but it doesn't mean that we're not already doing it without knowing that we're actually doing it. And why am I saying?
It might be interesting to find somebody who's got a barn on the highway who would say, hey,
but it's the concept. The thing is, that's what I want you to do, to go to your studio. And your studio is that little corner with the painting on the wall and maybe a small easel that you can put to your left. And this is the mightiness of your availability and opportunity and space to work. So it's your choice how much you're going to do, if you're going to do at all. And when you're doing it, how far can you really hold on to the consistency of that reality? Because you start a piece, you need to finish it. You know that. That's a given. Then and that's the uniqueness of this territory. You start, at least if you're sane, if you're smart, you would realize that you start and then you finish. Even if it takes long, but you finish and you show that you tried to finish it. So this reality doesn't tolerate staleness, laziness, hesitation. It wants more kind of
it's making a commitment.
Yes, and holding on to it. So now, now take the new age, take modernism, and I hate to hear myself saying modernism because I know so little about it anyway. But I know a lot about modernism the way I understand it because I created it to myself in the last 25 years of painting hands on. I have a lot of conversations with people that at some point I stop and I say, wait a second, a question. Did you ever paint a painting? And then I get an answer, no. So in time, we need to be very aware of the fact that a lot of people that have incredible amount of opinions and reactions never really actually painted a painting. Now, we need to keep it in mind for many reasons. So sometimes I can say, listen, for someone who never painted a painting, let's start all over again because, whoa, the things you said. But
you said something that's really, I don't mean to interrupt, but I think as an artist, one assumes that whoever you're talking to has some interest in art and maybe has done art, and that's not the case. The vast majority of people, I never thought of it before, But I make an assumption that when I'm talking to somebody who I just met or whatever the situation is, that they know about art. And most of the time they don't. Or you assume that they know how to paint or draw or whatever it is, and they don't. So it's really um, relieving and interesting and exciting to talk to somebody that does know about painting, does or sculpture or any art form, so that you can have a conversation that's one on one where if you explain something or say something, they understand what you're talking about. It's like a foreign language. If two people are standing together speaking French and you have no idea what they're saying, you're left out. But the two people that are speaking that language are communicating with each other in a very unique and different way. And it's the same with art. You can't talk to somebody about art to the nth degree unless they're an artist and unless they've created whatever it is they're creating. And that's a
Yes.
whole different language.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. And the thing is that actually, uh, you don't take it seriously, really. I mean, it's just that sometimes you need to remind yourself, remind them, remind re- to remind the reality so you can feel more comfortable, more intimate with people.
Right.
So every like uh, most of the people that appreciate me as an artist come to me and tell me that they appreciate my skills to put the show together the way I do, not less than the paintings themselves.
Right.
So they're saying,
Look, I know what goes into it, what you
but you
put
know what I
into
mean?
it.
So their respect, it comes from something a little more technical. Like, first of all, your production, you're on top of it, man. And you happen to be the artist also. Like, hello. So I I I listen to this and I realize that actually things happen correctly, in the right way, the way they should. So I get an indication that actually things are going and happening pretty according to what I was hoping that it would, and expecting and wishing, and it's happening. So it's
Right.
good to be with that feeling where then you go to the studio, any kind of studio, and you say, I am, wow, I'm here. I know I want to be here, and I know I'm going to be spending a lot of time here. And
Look, on a
and now
really
and
simple
then, and
basis,
now and
Haim,
then, I'll exit to the world and say, hey, let's share a little. Let's share a little bit. That's it. It's
right.
sharing.
I think on a very simplistic basis, when people walk in to LTV and they see a show, they have no concept of what goes into that show from the artist's point of view who created the art, from your perspective of how you pick the art that's going to be shown, how it gets hung, how it gets shown, all the things that go into it. They simply walk in and see an art show, and they just assume it sort of materializes out of thin air, and everything gets hung a certain way, and certain things are on the wall, and it just happened to be there.
Yeah.
There's no real understanding of what is involved in putting it together from the blank canvas to the blank wall. The whole process is creative. It doesn't just you don't just throw stuff up on the wall and it sticks and you go, there's the art show, it's done. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's the same for the artists. They have this white canvas. They don't just throw paint against it and say, well, that's done. I'm finished. There's a thought involved in every single step of the process, from literally from stretching the canvas if you're doing that, or whether you're buying a ready-made canvas, to the paints that you buy, to the brushes that you buy, to the creative process, getting it to you, getting it up on the wall, getting it open, doing an invitation, etc., etc. That's all part of the creative process. It doesn't stop just when the painting's done. It keeps going.
Yeah.
And, people just walk in and assume somehow or another it materialized on the wall. Well, it didn't just materialize on the wall. And that's what makes the difference between, I remember when Arnie and Elizabeth, the one Lee's on Tops, those guys really knew their stuff.
Yes.
It was in their blood. They knew how
Yes.
to hang a show. They knew how to pick art. They
Yes,
knew
and
how
I
to
met
design a
and I
gallery.
met a few of them. I met a few of them. I said them that some people that I kept very quiet next to them, very quiet, very attentive, very respectful, and and uh, and people appreciated me for what I was doing in their own way, and I felt like I'm a part of it, but that I have to be very careful and give a lot of respect and regard because I understood it exactly the way you described it now.
Right. I mean, they were really, really special people in that as an artist that exhibited there, I had an appreciation for their ability to do a gallery design the way they did it, to pick the art that they did, and to know how to sell it was special. It
Yes,
just
and you know
wasn't
what?
something that.
Remember how the air, what kind, how the air smelled then? How much you could really feel the art in the different way that you cannot anymore. The
I
opening,
agree.
the openings, the kind of galleries, the taste, the
It's all
taste,
gone.
the taste. I mean, it's not gone. It changed to a different style. Maybe it's not, but you knew it was like a little holiday. It's like something
Right.
festive. There was
Right.
always a different kind of additional meaning that goes with it. So when you're going, there's always dinner before, dinner after, and a great art show, and you spend time there, and you small talk, and you talk, and you spend time with friends as a given, as a given. Today, the attention span changed its nature.
I
Not
agree.
not that it got more or less. It just changed that the energy behind the ability and the need to have attention span, the right attention span. I mean, sometimes you need only 1 minute, but if you have only 30 seconds, it won't really give you enough.
Right.
It won't give you what you need. So the question is that you, you gotta find the right time, the right place, and when it happens, you gotta allow it to happen.
I think a really good example of the process that's gone on is that out here we had I think, three major art shows in tents during the summer, and they started off packed with art, not necessarily good, but you had galleries coming from all over the country, all over the world, exhibiting, and it was kind of exciting to see, and the crowds were really, it was packed. Um, a lot of people attended it. There was a certain excitement to it. I don't know how much sold. I don't think a lot. Um, and then over the years, it got smaller. I think we ended up finally with just one tent, and then it eventually disappeared. And the quality, the last show I remember, the quality of the art and the quality of the galleries exhibiting there had diminished substantially. And it had a lot to do with economics, with where the country was at that time and where it is today. And it's unfortunate that a lot of the art that was there was not creative. A lot of the art there was redundant. It just had sort of lost its spontaneity and excitement, and
But
and
but uh,
with it, it lost its crowds.
but let's agree that when we speak of breakthroughs, or however you want to call it, managing to penetrate a resisting wall, a resisting or anything that will kind of slows you down and makes you second guess yourself. But you have to agree with me that as far as people buying your art, or as far as being able to earn a living or anything like that, one thing I learned, if I create the way that I know that I can, and that when I do create that, to be honest with myself, and to really feel that it's making me happy. Otherwise, I will not allow it to continue further.
Right.
You know what I mean? I will not allow it. I would just
I
I
think
would
that
just go back and revisit, and work
yeah,
more, and more revisit, and then when I'm ready, and then when I go through the whole ritual all over again, approve it, then it's gonna be on the wall somewhere, and
right,
and guess what? Someone will leave with it to hang it in his place of living.
right.
This happens, and then when that goes, that's a commitment of a lifetime, especially if it's a piece that the other person really likes, or paid enough money to. So you're with someone, with one painting that will accompany him with all the scenarios of the moods and the things they will have to go through in his life. Can you
Well,
imagine? That's what I mean, the effect that we have on the world, slowly but surely, really.
as I said before, and we've talked about it over and over again, I wish that there was an opportunity for artists out here, the serious artists out here, of which there are a good number of artists, to get together on a fairly regular basis, whether it's once a month or twice a month, someplace, and sit down and discuss their art with each other, because that kind of electricity that's created, that kind of discussion between artists, it gets your creative energy flowing. When it's like, remember the artist dinners when they were real artist dinners and people brought their artwork, and you were sitting at a table and you were listening to somebody talk about their artwork. It was exciting. It was fun. I mean, people got to show their stuff. They got to discuss it. That's what's missing. There's a dialogue missing. Everybody is sort of in their own little chamber now, and they're not coming out. They're not communicating. We don't know what's being done, and it's unfortunate that that's not happening. If it is happening, then we're out of the loop, and it may be going on, and we don't know. And then it becomes the responsibility of the people that are doing it to communicate to the people that aren't there or aren't
But
part of it. Hey, we're here.
but I have to
Come
break
join
the
us.
news. But I have to break the news to you. In order to really be performing and creating on cloud nine, um, you really have to be um, uh, able to drink and to smoke and to have a nice hefty dinner, and be passionate and have loud discussions, and it doesn't have to be a classy scenario. It's just a gathering of, you can drink a bottle of wine, smoke two joints, and smoke half a pack of cigarettes in that session, and drink, and have a dozen different discussions, and and the formality would be something on a level that is. And I remember from Israel, I used to go to Israel. Well, when I grew up there, it was we buy an album of like, let's say, Return to Forever, Chick Corea, Joe Zawinul, John McLaughlin, and all the generations of drummers and whatnot in the mid 70s, late 70s, as we were like finishing high school and going to the army. We used to buy records that were not even released in the States yet. And we used to listen to it back to back at least 3 4 dozen times, with discussions in between, and most of the time about things that we were just guessing. And but it was passionate, it was loud, and it was like drinking and getting high, and feeling life this way, in a responsible fashion, but allowing that wildness to take place. This wildness doesn't exist. I don't know if it existed here or not, but it doesn't exist as we speak, where you can go to someone's studio and have a few beers, and smoke a joint, and drink cups of coffee, and just talk and just
Hey,
evaluate
there
and
are
be
so many restaurants
influenced
out
and
here
be
come
influenced.
September that would love to have a group of people come to dinner, not do a special like they used to do, and have 10 or 12 people come to dinner every month or whatever it is, and know that there's a group coming in, and whether you want to drink or you don't want to drink, everybody gets together, everybody has a discussion, People come and go with the group. You get new ideas, new insights. You have a dialogue. That's what's missing. And there are people out here that can do that. There are plenty of people out here that can do that. And it's just not happening. And I mean, when Lenore used to do it, she worked for the Montauk Sun. If somebody's working for the East Hampton Star or the Montauk Sun or whoever it is, and can sort of report back about the artist dinner or whatever you want to call it, you get enough people together and you put together an article. If you read Dan's paper, there are articles about all kinds of different things that happen on a regular basis. There should be something about art going on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And it's not reported. It's not happening. It's not going on. And there should be a challenge out there to say, okay, look, here's a place where everybody that's a serious artist, bring something that you can carry. Come to this restaurant on Thursday night. Bring your painting with you so we can all get introduced to each other, and let's start a meeting.
Any kind of interaction will suffice. Any kind of interaction, even a good conversation.
Yeah.
The thing is that I like I say, when I grew up, I was a part of crazy bunch that were, practicing for 7 to 11 hours a day, and in between going to swim like 50 laps and have a shake and come back in another 4 hours, to a point where you would be sometimes mistaken and think that they're lost their mind, but it was their way of saying, this is our interpretation of dedication, of devoting yourself to the concept and getting better every time, every day. They're getting better and better. I was shocked because I wanted to be that and I was doing the same as they did. But quickly enough, I realized different realizations, other realizations. I said, this is just for me to be a spectator, to enjoy and appreciate. And I managed to find an alternative way to try and achieve what they achieve by practicing 11 hours by doing something completely different, but still achieving the same. And this is being 17, 18, 19, and 19, and now it's in the army, 19, 20, 21. This is a span of 4 to 6 years, you know what I mean? Where you shape your character, your personality, and you're somewhat beginning to discover that your actions actually might even help the world.
Right. I would say this. You've made a commitment since the 80s to do this radio show. Okay?
TV show.
That's a major commitment.
TV show.
I would say TV show. TV show. Pardon me.
I'm sorry, my guess is like 80, 89. That's why. Yes.
I've done the TV show enough. I should know it's a TV show. Right at the moment, it's a radio show. But I would challenge the artists out there and say, make a commitment. Be willing to make a commitment to go to a place, and I'll find a place.
But no one is watching. Nobody's watching.
Well, maybe somebody's listening, and they are going to watch the show. Hey, I see you at night at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning, and I turn on the TV, and there's Haim, and I go, oh my God, now I'll never sleep. Especially if you're reading one of your poems and you don't have a guest. And I go, I have to listen to an hour of this man. The inside of his head is just spinning and it's coming out. I have no idea what the hell he's talking about.
You see what I mean?
He doesn't know what he's talking about, but I'm going to watch it.
But I'm going to... As a background, even something.
Maybe I'll just keep it turned down low until I get back to sleep and I can listen to it drone on for an hour. And every once in a while I wake up and I go, yep, still talking about the same thing. I have no idea what it is, but he's talking about it.
Oh my God. Yeah. So, but this, you see, now take everything you described. This is actually what's going on with me personally in the studio. I do find myself now and then an hour and a half to 2.5 hours working straightforward in the studio. It's intense, to say the least. I'm like beginning to get those migraines, and then I have to stop immediately, and breathe for 2 minutes, and then it goes away, and then I continue.
The secret is to be able to paint with your right hand and write poetry with your left hand.
Yeah. Who says I don't do it? How do you know I do
Maybe
that?
you do. For me, it's a whole different process. There's a magic.
How do you
I've
know I
always
do
told
that?
there's that moment of absolute terror and fear when you have the paintbrush in your hand. There's a white canvas in front of you, and the first question your brain says, "Do I still know how to paint?" And it's like, touch the canvas, and then your brain is gone. It's like there's a switch that turns off, and you could listen to music, you can play with your cat, you can do whatever you want, and every once in a while you look at your arm and your hand, and it's painting. It seems to know what it's doing.
Yes.
And you're a visitor to this incredible experience. For me, I've never ever drawn out anything that I'm going to paint. There's a moment at some point where I know what the painting looks like, and then it's almost like paint by numbers. You go down to your studio or you go into your studio and you start painting, and it just comes out. It's there. And there are subtle changes to it, but eventually you know what you want, and that's what develops.
Yes. But then you must admit that in between this process, there's so much coherence and so much realistic process and understanding the process that's unfolding realistically by us. I know that. It's like now when I used to wonder more before, but now I'm more like I know where I am. Like like I remember when I did a recording once in Jerusalem, and my recording is just like your experience seeing me on the screen. I can solo for an hour, and you don't know where the beginning or the end. And I remember that my friend helped me to kind of clean it up a little bit. And at some point I said, no, don't do that. Take it 5 seconds back because there's this and that and such and such. And he looked at me and he said, what? You know where you are in this mishmash of genius and what else? He was amazed. Since then, he started taking me seriously because we I live on these recollections of brightness and clarity, and most of the time I just go with the flow. However I feel, I go with it. But now I know that I can actually dictate a certain state of mind that is better for me to have as a backdrop, as a background.
One of the classes that I took at Post when I was getting my master's, which I never attended.
What was that?
I don't remember the course, but the final exam was that you had to come into class and you had to write out what your painting was or your sculpture was and be able to describe it to the class so that this is how you were graded, so that everybody knew after you finished describing it what it looked like. So everybody had these 4 or 5 page things that they read describing their painting. And of course, I didn't write anything. So, and I hadn't been to class. So it came to the final exam, and I sat down, and the teacher said, Steve Rahm, please read your description of your painting. And I stood up and I said, I don't have any written description of my painting, but I can tell everybody exactly what it looks like because it's in my head, and I'm looking at it right now, so I can describe it to everybody. And when I get finished, you'll all know exactly what the painting looks like. So she said, well, you're supposed to have it written down. I said, why would I have it written down when I see it? I can see it right now. As far as I'm concerned, the painting's done. So let me.
So you describe what you see, yes.
So I described it was like being any place where somebody would say to you, "Can you describe what your surroundings are like?" Of course I can. There are trees outside, and I'm describing a painting that I see inside my head. So I said it's about 3 feet by 4 feet. It's got a nice little wooden frame on it, and here's the painting. And I just proceeded to describe the painting exactly the way I saw it. And when I got finished, I said to the people in the class, I said, do you understand? Do you see it? And they all said, we know exactly what it looks like. How did you do that? I said, it's like looking at a painting hanging on the wall and turning around and describing it to you. That's all I'm doing. It's in my head. It's there. I don't need to write it down. I ended up with an A in the class, and the teacher said, "You described the painting. I could see it." I said, "It's not
Yes.
hard.
Yes.
If you go to
Well,
a
I mean,
museum and you turn around to somebody
but
and say, 'Hey, look, there's a Gauguin. Let me describe it to you.' They know what it looks like when you're done."
yes, but also I I do sometimes things that you describe now because I feel like I owe people that much that I can say it a little bit, you know. So that's why my alternative way, kind of abstractive, freestyle, experimental, is in order to give you a feel of it vis-a-vis the verbal aspect of it. So I'm already bringing you in to that mode by list by listening to what I have to say. So when you go there, all these vortexes and all these like things that doesn't have any beginning or any end start it becomes somewhat familiar from that short
I could
description.
look at one of your paintings and I could speak to somebody who had never seen one of your paintings and tell them exactly what it looks like. And when I'm finished, they'll know what your painting looks like at least 80%, if not more. So that when they see it, they're familiar with it and they have a sense of what it's like. It's not a Rembrandt. It's not a Monet. It's not a Chagall. It's a Haim.
Yes.
And Haim's work is different from everybody else's. And if you describe that and you're careful in your description and you discuss how the brushstrokes are done or how the paint is poured or what the colors are, you can communicate pretty clearly what the artwork is like. Your artwork is totally different than my artwork.
Yeah.
My artwork is totally different than Michael McDowell's artwork. Michael's artwork is totally different than somebody else's.
Yeah.
On and on and on. And
Yes.
you can describe each person's artwork so that people understand it. If they can't understand it, they're never going to go into a gallery in the first place. They don't belong there.
Here you go. So wait, because we actually been on the air for 55 minutes, which is incredible. So first of all, I wanted to say that Steve Rom is here with us, and it's the 29th day of September, year 2023, on a Friday afternoon here with the Hello Hello Show. And my name is Haim Mizrahi. And so, listen, right on. What can I say? And this, just imagine, we're just scratching the surface. And the thing is now, and I did a show 2 days ago, and I was talking about what, you know, if you have something that you can create a show for, and suddenly it became an issue in my mind while I was actually live, trying to explain myself and trying to make it sound like like a, like prose, you know, storytelling kind of storytelling with poetic tension, you know.
I will say one last thing to your audience, and I am surprised at how many people are out there that actually watch this show, and how many people I've run into who I've met and have said, you know, what you said at that show or what Haim said at that show really resonated with me, and I love that. I love the fact that people give you feedback.
Yeah.
So I will say to them, on the nights that you can't sleep, turn on LTV and watch Haim, especially if he doesn't have a guest, especially if he's just there by himself, and spend an hour with this man, and you will feel so much more sane than you ever did it.
Yes. That's a good way of putting it. Well said. Well put.
And you'll enjoy the hour because it's a creative roller coaster of a ride.
Amazing.
And you'll have a great time.
And you know what? And I agree with you. And thank you. And thank you for your willingness to just be who you are as a friend and as a mentor and just as a citizen of this community, you know, as a resident of this neighborhood. And I really I respect and I admire you, and I thank myself to have you in my life as a friend. And LTV, maybe a little less. They can do it. They said don't show up too often.
LTV is lucky to have you.
But in any case, so they appreciate you as much as I appreciate you, the entire viewers, for these interactions. This interaction, we included everything almost.
I think you're the honorary Joe Franklin of the Hamptons.
Oh, well, that's like I need to think about that. But let me see how much time. Wait, let me see.
You have to figure out what
Okay,
that means.
so I'm gonna say we're gonna be here tomorrow as much as we were here yesterday, and as much as we're here this afternoon, Friday afternoon, September 30th, year 2023. And my name is Haim Mizrahi here with the Hello Hello Show. And Steve Ram, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.